Hey friends, welcome back for day 2 of Ivy and Bean. So before we get started with our new vocabulary word and reading, we're going to go over yesterday's written response. So yesterday's question was, why do you think Bean's mother wanted her to be friends with Ivy? So I'm going to share my answer, and hopefully you had something similar written down for yesterday too. Okay, I was using clues from the chapter. Remember, using text details. So my response was, I always tell my friends, remember, you don't reuse the question words when you're restating your answer, okay? When you have your sentence starter, and it's our opinion, so we change you to I. I think Bean's mother wanted her to be friends with Ivy because they are the same age and they live near each other. Okay, so that was my answer because I remember that Bean's mom specifically said that to Bean in the chapter, okay? All right, so our new vocabulary word for today, remember yesterday's word was relationship, which meant a connection. And today's new word is one of my favorite actually, mischievous, okay? So mischievous is an adjective, remember that means it's a describing word. That means liking to cause trouble in a playful way. So it doesn't mean that you're doing something to be mean, okay? It means that you're just doing it playfully, like you're teasing. I know, because people can be mischievous, but also pets. I know that my cat, Allie, she likes to be mischievous. I know she's just playing, but what she's doing is kind of sneaky and she's not always on her best behavior. So I want you to think about maybe someone or something, a pet maybe at home, that sometimes can be mischievous. Maybe it's even you, okay? All right, so today for chapter 2, we're going to read Bean Hatches a Plan. Now, if you remember, yesterday was No Thanks, where we read about how Bean did not think that she was going to get along with Ivy. So we're gonna see what happens today. We'll see if you remember too. And we're going to introduce a new character. We're gonna have Nancy. So if you remember, that was her older sister, Bean's older sister. While we're reading, because I want us to still think about character traits, so while we're reading, I want you to think about how or what else we learn about Bean, okay? All right, books are out and get ready. Chapter 2 is Bean Hatches a Plan. It all began because Bean was playing a trick on her older sister. Bean's older sister was named Nancy. She was 11. Nancy thought Bean was a pain and a pest. Bean thought Nancy was a boogerhead. Ever since she turned 11, Nancy had been acting like she was Bean's mother. She ordered Bean around in a grown-up voice. Comb your hair. No more pretzels. Brush your teeth. Say please. Bean's mother said that Nancy was going through a stage. Bean knew what that meant. That meant Nancy was bossy. Bean also knew that nobody likes bossy kids, so she was trying to help Nancy be done with her stage. Here's how she helped. She bugged Nancy until Nancy freaked out. Bean thought this was pretty helpful. The afternoon that Bean got her great idea, she was shopping with her mom and Nancy. Actually, Bean was being dragged along by her mom and Nancy. Bean hated shopping. Nancy loved it. Nancy was trying on skirts, lots of skirts. She put on a purple skirt. She looked at her front in the mirror. Then she turned to the side. Then she turned around and tried to look at her behind. Looks good, said Bean. Let's go. Be patient just a little longer, Bean, said Bean's mother. I think it's cute, honey, she said to Nancy. Nancy looked in the mirror some more. Do you think the pockets are dumb? I like the pockets, said Bean's mom. Get it, get it, get it, moaned Bean. She had never been so bored in her entire life. She was so bored she fell on the floor. Then she took a tiny peek up at the lady in the dressing room next door. Yow! Get up, Bean, said her mother. This minute. Bean got up and sat on the triangle seat again. She waited. Nancy looked at herself. I kind of like it, Nancy said, but it costs $40. That's all my money. I could get 2 short shirts for $40. Don't be a tightwad, said Bean. She had just learned that word. It meant someone who didn't like to spend money. Don't call your sister a tightwad, said Bean's mom. Bean saw Nancy's eyes looking at her in the mirror. Tightwad, Bean mouthed without any sound. So I'm going to stop here for a minute because I'm trying to picture that in my head with Bean mouthing those words. I can almost see her. She has a mischievous look on her face because she's planning some mischief. Nancy's eyes got narrow and so quick that their mother didn't see. She stuck out her tongue. Then Nancy turned to their mother and said, I think the skirt costs too much, Mom. I think I'd rather try on some tops. Bean knew then that Nancy was being slow on purpose, just to drive her crazy. Bean thought about kicking her in the shin, but then she got the idea. It was a great idea. It was also a helpful idea, one that would teach Nancy not to be such a tightwad. And best of all, her idea would make Nancy freak out. You'll be sorry, Bean mouthed to Nancy. Uh-oh. Okay, we're gonna find out tomorrow. See if you remember what kind of plan she has. Here again, I can see she mouthed it to Nancy again. She's being mischievous. You'll be sorry because she's planning something. All right, so remember while we were reading that time together, we were supposed to be thinking about character traits to describe Bean. So I want you to think about that for a minute. We learned something new about her in this chapter. I know I'm thinking that it has to do with our vocabulary word today, that she is mischievous. She also hates shopping. Now, while you reread it with your partner or reread it on your own, either way is fine. I want you to think about character traits for Nancy. Okay, so go ahead, you're gonna pause the video, reread it, and then unpause the video when you're done. All right, so you should be all finished up with reading, and we're gonna go over our bonus questions. So remember, if you get them right, kiss your brain, give yourself a squeeze, give yourself a high five, whatever it is you need to do, okay? So the first question is, what evidence, remember that means text evidence from the story, can you find that Bean is mischievous? So think about what happened in the story that told us that. Okay, I hope you're thinking that Bean was mischievous when she was mouthing to Nancy that you'll be sorry, okay, because she has a plan. Now, what kind of evidence did the story have, this chapter have, that Nancy is also mischievous? What did she do? Okay, remember Nancy, She was the one that told her mom, oh, the skirt costs too much, so I think I want to take more time and get some shirts instead. And remember, then she looked at Bean. So she was also being mischievous. She was trying to make it slow on purpose because Bean didn't like it. Now, your last question is going to be the one that you're going to write about today for your written response. So for chapter 2, it says, how are Bean and her sister different? Okay, so remember, you need to give me a good sentence starter and a good detailed answer from the story. Okay, so how are Bean and her sister different? And then we'll go over it on our next reading day. Okay? All right, so we are going to quickly look at our graphic organizer. Now remember, you don't have your graphic organizer at home, but we are still going to be going over our story map, so our different elements in our story, and we are going to be adding some more to it today, okay? Okay, so here's our graphic organizer. We have our characters, setting, problem, solution, and events. So I added another character in for our story because today we met Nancy, okay? And she is going to be a larger character in our story. And then I did go ahead too and add our events from yesterday and today. So yesterday, Bean doesn't want to be friends with Ivy. That was the most important piece of information from that chapter. And then today's most important piece was Bean develops a plan to trick Nancy. Remember, the whole chapter really was about how they don't get along and how she's trying to get Nancy out of her stage that she's in. All right? So remember, you'll be able to follow along with our graphic organizer at home next week. And until then, you can just look at mine. But I will see you next time for chapter 3. Thanks for joining me.